りおしまい。
Welcome back, Dragon Ballers, to Get the Mic, the only show where your host on the left, Owl,
And your host on the right, Brock.
dissect fiction for its mythological significance. Now, it's been a couple of days since we've recorded. I noticed a couple of things about our last episode. So it was called Yamcha versus Tien for a while because I forgot to update the actual full naming convention, right? But it actually kind of diminish the returns on it. I think our naming convention helps in the algorithm. So we appreciate you guys for recognizing the name, typing in the whole thing, or typing in our name to find it. It's really interesting to me how that analytic worked out.
Yeah.
But before we get started, other housekeeping stuff. I don't think you have anything, Brock, do you?
Nope.
Before we get started, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe. We upload videos on YouTube Mondays and Thursdays, on Rumble Tuesdays and Fridays, and we're going to start uploading on Spotify very soon. I think other than that, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments, but let's go ahead and get started with episode 88, Yamcha's Big Break. So although we just saw, like in the last episode, there was the recap. Briefly, Yamcha and Tien are fighting. That's how this episode starts. And although Yamcha's improved Wolfang Fist, which is what we leave off with last time, catches Tien off guard, the fighters appear matched in skill, drawing blood from each other. Yamcha then launches himself skyward towards the sun, before plunging down and Wolfang kicking Tien, sending the fighter sprawling. Yamcha tells Tien that he should give up unless he feels like dying. Then Tien laughs at this notion and braces himself against Yamcha's second attempt at using this attack, shrugging it off this time. He launches into a counterattack, sending Yamcha sprawling and telling them that he should give up unless he feels like dying.
So it's interesting that whenever they're sort of matched, Yamcha's his intuition is to launch himself up in front of the sun and then do his attack downward at him, right? I think that most of the attacks in this fight are symbolic of what's going on with sort of Yamcha's mode of being and what he's learned from Roshi in this time period that he's been training, how it matches up against what Tien represents.
Well, and how he's also incorporated his own self. Like, he hasn't surrendered the self completely. It's not like
Right.
Krillin, where Krillin doesn't really... He didn't have any moves to begin with, but if he did, he wasn't using them now. Yeah, so he still incorporates the wolf thing, the wolf motif, and now it is plunging down using the power of the logos, let's say.
Right. It shows that Yamcha has that sort of intuition that the way that he can approach the situation better is to gain a higher point of view, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
And so it shows that he's already got that
An
flexibility,
elevated
an elevated perspective, yeah.
mhm.
And so what's interesting is that what Yamcha's doing here is he's testing if that's good enough to make it to the next phase in this sort of hierarchy. And so he pits that against Tien, and that actually knocks Tien down. And then Tien laughs at the thought that that would defeat him, right? And so what does he do? Is he gets up and says, he just braces himself and says, no, I can take that attack. I already have that incorporated into my being, right? I know
M
that about the
r
way that you're supposed to be good.
Right, exactly, and that's what we've been saying about Tien is that he knows that, and he's willfully and consciously rejecting it, so it can't harm him at that same notion as in, like, the revelation that it exists. That's kind of what Yamcha's using, and, he's seen it work before, to be honest. I mean, Nam used this ability as well, the elevated perspective, to take, other fighters out that were strong, even almost knocking out Goku, so it's something he's seen before, but Tien is way past that at this point.
Exactly. And a lot of things that people are going to do against Tien really are going to represent character development for Tien, showing that Tien has incorporated a wisdom of or a knowledge of that thing and is willfully rejecting it. That he has the consciousness of their attack on his mode of being, but he's already turned away from it, so to speak. And we see him turn away attacks in that sense.
And this, to be specific, being that elevated perspective that Yamcha's gained by subordinating himself to the Turtle School and incorporating the logos, which can be imparted by the spiritual father.
Right.
And so that whole idea and the idea of setting forth order from chaos is something that Tien has already known and shunned. So that the next thing,
And of course there is
you,
the dying thing, right?
yes,
Which is specifically while he's down, he tells him to give up unless he feels like dying. And I think the reason that he does it back to him is what we're saying, which is that he's almost doing the Goku thing right now, where he's allowing Yamcha to come at him and exert the limit of his force that he's willing to impart, and then turn it back on him and incorporate it and use it and say like, no, I'm on that level.
and Tien's mode of being is almost a corruption of Goku's right now because he is here to get stronger, right?
Right.
He does value that, and he's not just killing them outright. He is doing the tournament, following the tournament rules, right?
But it's funny that he laughs at that because he's always like,
Yeah,
lucky I couldn't kill him.
yeah. And so, he uses it back on him, like you said, and it's an ironic thing, but it's something that we, the audience, can somewhat infer based on how Tien handles that attack,
Right.
especially because of what we know about Goku. So, the next thing we see, ooh, what? I do not want that. I think I got it. Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why that opened. Yamcha picks himself up and surprises everybody by using his last resort, the Kamehameha wave. But Tien deflects it. Yamcha launches himself into the air, only to be caught in the air and knocked into the ground, unconscious. Tien then proceeds to drive his own knee onto Yamcha's leg, badly breaking it. Tien is declared the winner as Goku rushes to Yamcha's side. Puar transforms into a magic carpet and carries Yamcha away to a hospital, Papaya Hospital, I believe. Bulma and Launch rush after them. Now, there's a couple of interesting things here. Um, Firstly, I do want to say the ability for Tien to deflect the Kamehameha wave is just exactly what we were talking about a second ago. It's the
Right.
willful rejection of it, right? And that idea that it can be turned to a malevolent force is so surprising that Yamcha has no choice but to dodge it.
It even surprises Roshi
Yes.
that it could be done. And so there's definitely an elevation. Whenever he does this, it sets him on a level we don't really know. We don't know what
We've
level he
never
could be
seen
on.
anyone do some like even Tao, the last adversarial spirit that was worth mentioning was not able to deflect the Kamehameha wave. All his clothes got destroyed from it.
Right.
But this is something else. And so it does distinguish him from any other adversarial spirit that we've seen so far. That discipline has paid off. It's like a lawful evil versus neutral evil or chaotic evil.
So we've talked before about how the Kamehameha wave has sort of represented a wave of truth, right? How it's telling the truth, it's speaking the truth, speaking reality as it is. And the fact that Tien is able to take that and force it back against Yamcha is something akin to the person that you're arguing with being able to take a stance where the the biggest appeal you have to them morally doesn't affect them because they consider themselves above it, and they turn your idea of what you think is true or good back at you and say, "Oh, that's simple. I've already grappled with all those ideas, and I can turn those back at you, and it can demoralize you." And I think that's ultimately what he's doing here is he's demoralizing the people that he comes up against with that attitude, right?
Well, I think a way to put it might be Yamcha using the Kamehameha wave here also as a last resort. It's not something that he's mastered, right?
Right.
And that's important to note as well because the that will be useful for someone who can better wield it.
True. Yeah, he can, because a lot of it, what I think is the strength of the Kamehameha is sort of your ability to represent what is really true, what is really right.
In order to do that, Korin
And
would
it's a
help.
right, and there's a sophistication to it. So Yamcha is telling Tien symbolically, for instance, your mode of being is inferior to mine because of XYZ, and it's indisputable facts. And Tien can look at that truth and contextualize it from a perspective that's higher and say, like that fact
See, I
about
don't
myself, it doesn't affect me.
is that what it is though? Because I actually thought that you were going somewhere else with that and saying that the Kamehameha wave that Yamcha uses here is more of a moral superiority.
A moral superiority.
Yamcha's 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 trying to turn this chaos that he doesn't know, which is Tien,
Right.
trying to turn into order by using the truth to understand it, right? And so this is an immoral actor to Yamcha.
Right.
That's why it would be able to defeat. It should be able to defeat Tien, but Tien, knowing he's a moral actor, can use his own truth to use the wave back at him, right? Saying,
Right.
"Yes, I am."
That's what I'm saying is that he considers his morality higher. And so
Hmm.
he can take all that Yamcha could throw at him as to why his morality isn't true or isn't right and say, that doesn't affect me because I'm above all of those arguments, right? And so he literally isn't affected by it and he can send it back.
Not
And
even
so
arguments. It's just truth, right?
yeah, it's
Yes, I am immoral.
so what?
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
And but sending that
I'm
back at
still.
somebody. So what I'm talking about is those the act of sending that back at someone and it being able to damage them is that demoralizing force, right? It's using a truth about something good and perverting it and turning it against being, right?
And it kind of leaves the person vulnerable to all sorts of attacks at that point because then their whole
Well, they
bait
lose their
the whole
footing, right?
yeah, and that's why I was getting to why Yamcha's in the air when he
Yeah,
gets knocked down. Um, he's laid low, let's say, and then Tien emphasizes it, and he shows why he was able to block the Kamehameha wave
right.
because then he drives his knee into Yamcha's and breaks his leg on purpose, maliciously.
This is this is actually what Yamcha would have to learn from, say, a Tao Pai Pai, right?
In order, yeah, exactly.
To be on that level, and Tien is already past that.
And so he gives him a little taste of it here.
Says this is what malice is because I have integrated malice. All of your hoity-toity, you're not on the right path, you're not true, doesn't affect me because
Mm-mm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
malicious.
Exactly. And so, and I think that's where we get Puar turning into a magic carpet.
Hmm.
So Puar transforms to take Yamcha away. His leg is broken. Tien is declared the winner. And Goku and Krillin get him onto the magic carpet, and he flies out of there above everyone. And it's almost,
It reminded me of the Spider-Man "Careful, he's a hero" meme.
well, yeah. Well, I was gonna say it's because the spirit immatured is still admirable, right? Just because Yamcha hasn't integrated malice yet doesn't mean he won't. Doesn't mean he can't. He's still the immature masculine
Right.
spirit.
Malice does not equate to being a mature masculine spirit, though, right? So there's this sort of not that in and of itself, right? So it's like he's still. This actually elevates, literally and figuratively elevates Yamcha's status
Well, he has grappled with the unknown, and he's grown
to his
stronger from
limit,
it. Yeah, to his limit. He's grown stronger from it, but he's gonna have to heal this leg.
right?
If only Goku had brought some senzu beans. Oh well.
But I mean, the damaging of his leg while he's unconscious, taking advantage of his
Well,
vulnerability,
hitting an opponent while they're down, using an immoral act
right?
specifically to
Specifically,
cripple Yamcha.
but it's what the act means figuratively and what it does literally in a sense, right? Because that's that
Well, I mean spiritually
demoralization.
cripple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that demoralization manifest physically in what he does. So it is the same thing, and that's why he does it in this
And
way.
it's a lamentable thing to see a noble spirit crippled in such a way, which is why he
Right.
gets carried out in that way. And then Bulma and Launch rush after him, being what they represent there. Bulma, of course, uh, being that archetypal female who will go forward. And at this point too, she's been with Yamcha at Roshi's Island. Like she's still been around. They're kind of back together, right? So she's gonna be there. And Launch, being Blue Launch, of course, is gonna be that maternal spirit that is going to go after him.
Right. That is basically part of her purpose is to be able to nurture and heal whatever the negative chaotic can throw at the hero. Right.
And this is exactly that. So she rushes after them, and they end up in the hospital. And so, after the match, Goku tells Tien that he'll make him pay for what he did to Yamcha. Tien laughs it off and tells Chiaozu that he was surprised at Yamcha's strength, concluding he must have been the strongest in the Turtle Hermit school. Jackie Chun then runs into Man Wolf, who declares that he will kill Jackie. Afterward, at the hospital, Yamcha warns Goku about Tien's strength. Goku promises that he will win for Yamcha. The gang then runs into the Crane Hermit squad at their restaurant and squabbles with them for being boastful. The next day, the match is called for Jackie Chun to fight Manwolf, and the two square off before entering the ring.
So a lot of different things happening at the end of the episode. That's kind of sort of filler, not really filler. It's a lot of cleanup after the match. There's, I guess, the first thing is the Man Wolf threatening to kill Turtle Hermit right whenever he sees him, and we're sort of
Now, Jackie Chun, he's not
right.
Roshi at that point.
Not Roshi. Jackie Chun swears that he's going to kill Jackie Chun,
Yeah.
and it's another manifestation of this sort of like this talk about kill, this malice coming into the scene, which is funny because it's like this is a very serious match, and leading up to the Man Wolf match is sort of a comedic inversion of that. I'm gonna kill you, and then turning that malice on its head. Um, and it's for a good reason too. I think that it's gonna be a good episode to talk about. But the it's so comical. He's just like standing there staring at him. He says, "I'm gonna kill you," and then just runs away, and that's
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty good.
And it's just a really quick one-off scene. Um, and then of course they go to the restaurant, and the whole Crane Hermit school
Well, they
comes
go to the
in.
hospital, right?
Yeah, they
First.
go to the hospital. Goku talks to Tien, or talks to getting all the names mixed up now.
Yamcha, yeah, talks to Yamcha about
Talks to
Tien.
Yamcha about Tien, and Yamcha, as always, is like, "No, Goku, he's so strong," just like with Mummy,
Yeah,
right? Because Mummy threatened to break him. Tien really broke him,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so he does the same thing. He talks to Goku, and Goku says that he's going to punish him and that he'll win for him. And basically, everyone just tells Yamcha to rest. And it's a quick one-off scene. And then they finally go to the restaurant where the Crane
Yeah.
Hermit School sits right next to them and starts loudly boasting about the fight, just to rub salt in the wound, right?
Yeah. They get a big table and order a huge feast for the celebration, and then Roshi crop dusts them.
So one thing is that the Crane Hermit does is he intentionally asks about what he already knows about because he was on the front row watching the fight the whole time, and it cuts to him repeatedly, and he watches everything, and then so he starts asking Tien, "Oh, did he put up much of a fight? Oh, how hard was it?"
Mm-hmm.
Just to dishonestly, shame them.
Yes.
And so Goku gets up and tells him to stop talking bad about Yamcha with his mouth full, and
Then
uh
goes to pee.
and Roshi reminds him not to try to fight him here. And Goku just says, "I gotta go pee," and runs off.
Well, it's interesting there, right? Because he shows that vulnerability whenever he does stand up for outside of the self, right? He's standing up for the Yamcha spirit at this point. And so that's going to show that vulnerability. And so he goes to pee right away. And then Roshi crop dusts them, right? Is that it?
Right. Then the Crane Hermit insults Goku's manners and says, "Wow, the fighters are both bad and ill-tempered," or something like that. And so Roshi's response to that is to crop dust him.
Yeah.
In the English translation or in the English dub, it's he backs up and he's like, "You can say that to my face," but there's no fart sound.
Yeah. But then in the sub there is, and then Crane Hermit spits all over his food. And you can see like the level of immaturity that these two will get into with each other.
Well, this
It's
is the
it's
dynamic with him being, "I'm better than you. I'm better behaved than you. I'm basically looking down on you," right? And
yeah.
so Roshi's response to him looking down on the manners of his best pupil ever is to fart on him. Like, "Oh yeah?"
Here you go. Yeah, and it's just uh to take it to that level that Crane Herbert wants to like wallow in anyways. And Roshi's like, "All right, we'll go there."
It's like, "Oh, you want to call me disgusting? I'll show you disgusting. Fine."
Yeah, exactly. Call it like I see it. So, that's the restaurant. And that's pretty much all that happens there, right? The rest of there's no conclusion to it.
Pretty much.
And then the next day the match is called for Jackie Chun and Manwolf. And that's actually where we'll pick up next time. I think that is a good place to leave off.
Yep.
Now, this episode, Yamcha's big break, I think, is emblematic of the immaturity that one can gain simply by subordinating oneself to a higher order of being. So, Yamcha subordinating himself to Roshi was a good step in the right direction. He had already gotten stronger from going down and fighting the mummy, but he still hadn't experienced true malice, and he can't in under the watchful eye of Roshi. Uh, the self, as such, cannot mature into or mature with an understanding of malice without leaving the propensity of for danger that it entails, and that
Right.
means leaving the parental structure.
Right. That's individuation. And the thing is, whenever we first see Tien, he's out there in the world, right? He's out traveling around, putting what he learned from the Crane Hermit into practice.
Yeah, but instantiating himself still, which that's kind of what the training on the road was all about.
Right.
And Yamcha just hasn't done that yet. And
He is on the level of being able to compete 3 years ago.
yeah,
Poor Yamcha.
poor Porcha. Anyways, it's his big break.
This was his big break.
This was his big break. All right, well, if you liked what you heard, please give us a like. Subscribe to our channel. We upload Mondays and Thursdays on YouTube, Tuesdays and Fridays on Rumble. We'd love to hear what you had to say in the comments. Anything else, Brock?
Nope.
All right, I'm your host on the left, Al.
I'm your host on the right, Brock.
We hope you guys have a good night.